Hi, everybody. My name's Kathleen, and I'd like to share some funny things that have happened to me throughout my life. My children and family and friends have encouraged me to do this, so I'd like to dedicate this to them and also to Lisa and her girls. This story or happening is entitled Losing My Underpants on the Airplane. So it's not as risque as it sounds, but Um, way back in the 60s, I had recently moved from Brooklyn to Cincinnati, Ohio, and my mother was missing me terribly. So she had called me and said that if she would pay for my plane fare, would I come to New York with my young son, who was about a year and a half old at that time, and spend Easter with her. So, of course, I agreed, and it had been many years since I had flown, and I had only flown once before, and I wasn't really a fan of flying. So, back in those days, thank God somebody has recognized that plus size women need attractive clothing too. But back in those days, the only thing that plus size women could purchase were these ugly muumuus. And as far as undergarments went, that was unbelievable. Nothing nice like they have today. Uh, it's horrible, but it was just big white cotton bloomers back in those days. So anyway, here I am. Easter was early that year, so it was cold. It was in March, and I had one of these ugly muumuus on it, a big heavy coat, and so my son and I pack up, and we're on the plane. Plane ride's only about an hour and a half, and it was a afternoon flight, and it was mostly businessmen on there. The only other women besides myself were the stewardesses and a very elegant elderly lady. So I'm here on the plane, and uh, playing with my son, and we had been coming up the coast because again, we had left from Cincinnati to New York, so we really were mostly over land. And I don't know if I got busy playing with my son and didn't hear them, mention that we were getting close to landing. And all of a sudden, I heard something that sounded like an explosion, and the plane rocked. And I looked out the window and I see water. So I don't know what we're doing over water. And I'm the first one to panic in an emergency. So I start screaming, "We're crashing! We're crashing!" And I'm hysterical. So finally, after a few minutes, I realized that I'm the only one that's hysterical and that whatever happened, we mustn't be crashing. So now I just want to absolutely drop dead. In the meantime, I made my son hysterical and he's crying and acting up and whatever. So I crouch down in the seat, and all I can think about is I want to get out of here. I want to get away from these people because I'm so embarrassed. Anyway, the plane finally lands, and it's before they have those enclosures that go right into the airport lobby. You had to kind of go down the stairs and across the runway and whatever. Well, I just can't get away from these people fast enough. So I get up out of the seat, and I'd had an overnight bag or whatever. So I look like a lady wrestler because I've got the bag in one arm and the kid in the other arm, and I'm wobbling um, down the aisle to get out of this plane. And all of a sudden, the elastic on my big white bloomers breaks. Oh my God, I said, didn't I do enough to embarrass myself? Do I have to drop these big white drawers in front of all of these people too? Well, I locked my legs together and I'm waddling out of this plane and down through the runway and into the lobby. And you know how long it is to walk through an airport? It seems like it's endless and it's miles. And again, it was early Easter, so it was March, but I'm sweating with the trying to hold these bloomers up and carry my son and the bag and whatever, and trying to get away from these people. And they seem to be following me. But, excuse me, Here I am wobbling. And Tim Conway, I don't know if you remember the Carol Burnett show, but he must have been in the airport that day because I think he stole my walk. Of course, I'm just kidding. You know, when he used to do the old man and waddle along. So here I am waddling along, waiting to get away from these people. And finally, I can see the doors. And so I'm going, it's like they say when you die, your life flashes in front of you. So I'm thinking, now how am I going to get into this cab without dropping these drawers? So I decide, okay, I'm going to back it in, keep my legs together, and swing them around, and I can get in there. Sure enough, that's what I did. Well, by the time I got into this cab, I was so totally exhausted and I was beat red. So I bleated out to the guy where I wanted to go, and I throw myself in the back in the seat and I'm going because I'm so out of breath. So I guess after a few minutes he's looking at me and I can see him and looking at me in the rearview mirror and he says, "Lady, are you okay?" And I didn't want to tell him what had happened. I said, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine." Now, you know, my mother owned a luncheonette at that time, so that's my destination where I was going. So finally we get there. In the meantime, before we get there, I'm going, well, when I get out of this cab, I ain't going to be able to get out the same way I got in because if I back it out, I'm going to fall on my you know what and kill myself. So now I'm thinking, which would be less conspicuous, to pull 'em up or pull 'em down? So this guy's looking at me like, have I got a lunatic here on my hands? Is she gonna go berserk on me? So I decided that it would be easier to pull them down, which I did, and I put them in my pocket. So we finally get to the luncheonette. Now, New York cabbies in general don't help you out of the door. But he came around, I guess, because I just looked so distraught, and he is helping me out of the cab. In the meantime, my mother can see me. She's looking out the window of the luncheonette, and she knows something's wrong. She just comes out and she says, "Kathleen, Kathleen, what happened?" I said, "Ma, don't ask me any questions." I said, "But I got my underpants in my pocket." So, anyway, it's a true story. Anybody that knows me, they know that everything that's happened to me has been unexpected, and not, it's just been fun. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this and look forward to some other stories. And some of the titles of those are going to be The Date from Hell, and that's very interesting. And a couple of life-threatening episodes that I've had at Walmart. Chasing crooks down Mermaid Avenue in Coney Island. That's another story. And then the last one on my list right at this time is robbing taxi cab drivers. That's why I learned how to drive. Now, I don't want to go to jail. I didn't, it's not like it was a holdup or something like that, but stay tuned and you'll see the further episodes of Kathleen. Arrivederci.